The Truthful Dictionary Vocabulary Builder, you'll remember these words 21 through 30. In today's lesson, I'm going to take 10 vocabulary words and apply them to real life. A dramatic application, which you will find difficult to forget. And that's how I'm going to enable you to recall these words and use them to slash and destroy those who oppose you, control you, take everything you have, and enslave you. Words are used by everybody, so learn to wield words as if they were a sword. First word, discrete. This is an adjective. Individually separate and distinct, detached, distinct and abstract. The mind control process has 4 discrete steps. Step 1 is demoralization. It takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation because it takes 1 generation of students of the target enemy country to be exposed to the ideology that's being imposed upon them. When the TSA touches your genitalia, they have been instructed to do so. This is part of demoralizing you. You saw it in the Iraq War when they had men on leashes like dogs. The U.S. military demoralized them in order to conquer them, to enslave them, and take their oil. And it was Donald Rumsfeld who gave the order to do this. They called it softening up the enemy, but it was actually demoralizing them, the first discrete step in the 4-step process to control the minds of that society. Watch out for this step, and when you see it, call it out. Tell the Nazis that you're on to them and that you know about this discrete demoralization step. Because if you don't complain, do you know what you get? Step 2. Step 2 is destabilization. This is a discrete step in the 4-step process to gain control of your mind, and you must resist and protest. They will hypnotize a college student, tell him to take a gun into a movie theater and start killing people, just so they can repeal the Second Amendment right, constitutional right to bear arms. I make videos, and I'm dangerous to the Nazis because I bring you the truth. If you bring the truth to the people, you are also dangerous. What we need in this country is a group of well-informed and dangerous citizens. Nothing is more dangerous than the truth to a Nazi. So let's be as dangerous as we can and bring down the dictatorship in America. The truth will loosen that grip. The last thing the Nazis want is for you to become aware of the 4 discrete steps in their mind control process. So help me spread the truth about what's really going on with the Gestapo, the TSA, and the Department of Homeland Security. They hypnotize a college student against his will, and they send him into a crowded movie theater to fire a gun at innocent patrons who have come to watch a Batman movie. After the theater killings, the Nazis declare a crisis. Some nut used a gun to kill people. And the Nazis therefore want to take away your guns and remove the Second Amendment of the Constitution, your right to bear arms, because guns kill people, not Nazis. It's not the Nazis who kill people. The guns kill people. Then the people hear about this plan to ban guns and they think it's a good idea. Yeah, it's a great idea for only the Nazis to have guns. I love that idea. How do the people then defend themselves against the Nazis? If anyone would carry this to the second layer and think about Nazis have guns and you don't, and therefore there is no balance of power, there is only totalitarian power by the Nazis. And the people are so simple-minded that they see guns as dangerous. Well, they are dangerous, and that's why the Second Amendment is there, because guns are dangerous to the Nazis. And we need a Second Amendment just in case the Nazis take over the country and enslave the people. Just in case the Nazis start killing people in movie theaters, and as they did on 9/11 in order to pass the Patriot Act and take away your freedoms. Now they're killing Americans in movie theaters, and they have you believing it was some nut with a gun. He wasn't hypnotized. The Nazi government routinely hypnotizes innocent college students, and the story of Andy Perro is proof. The government program was called Project Superman. I did a series on this, and the link is on your screen now. We have a crisis because a hypnotized student started killing people in a crowded movie theater. And he doesn't know why he killed people any more than Andy Perro understood why he was put on a fighter jet and flown to a waiting Navy ship that brought him into port to commit assassinations of people he knew absolutely nothing about. Andy Perro didn't even want to kill them, but they told him under hypnosis that these were very bad people, and they listed a bunch of things that these people allegedly had done. And so Andy Perro agreed, and he did 10 assassinations. And he didn't get killed, and they expected him to die in one of them. And so they told him he had to do 25 missions. And he told them to kiss my shorts. I'm not doing it. Now please watch that series, because the story of Andy Perro is the truth about what goes on in this country. It's the truth about what they do to young college students in order to make them assassins. And this is a very powerful weapon that the enemy has, and you must at least be aware of it. When the public is told about a crazy man who fired a gun in a theater, the Nazis have total control of that story. And if you look closely at this story, you'll find that the official version disagrees with the eyewitness version, just like it did at the JFK assassination, just like it did in 9/11, and just like it did in the Oklahoma City bombing. And the Nazis dispose of witnesses. And they cover up the truth because they control the newspapers. The Nazis threatened the media with an IRS audit or an FCC investigation if they don't cooperate. And this is how they control the media, in addition to bribery and assassination. The conspiracies are broad and far-reaching, and they're real. But you have airheads who go around saying, "You're a conspiracy theorist, and you should be ashamed of yourself for recognizing the truth about the Nazi government." Today they're killing Americans in order to remove your constitutional rights. And tomorrow, you know what they'll be doing to you? They'll be taking your organs. Because a Nazi needs a heart, and your blood type matches his. So he lives and you die. If they would kidnap children and turn them into prostitutes for the CIA, if they would get people all over the world hooked on heroin, do you think they would hesitate to take your heart or any other organ? If you allow them to get away with this, then you deserve to have your heart taken from you. There's nothing that a Nazi won't do, mark my word. They create a crisis, and then they use that crisis as an excuse to pass a new gun control law, which looks a lot like the health control law and the TSA and all the other Nazi programs that they are slipping into your life while you all snooze. But I'm here to oppose them, and I hope you will join me in a subtle way, because taking a high profile like I have done is a death sentence, and I don't care. I will not allow them to get away with this. And the more of us know the truth, the better chance we have of keeping our heart in our chest where it belongs. They hypnotized this young man and essentially took his life, as they did to John Hinckley, who attempted to kill Ronald Reagan, as they did to Sirhan Sirhan, who was said to have killed Robert Kennedy, but the evidence points to CIA, not Sirhan Sirhan, if you want to know the truth. They take the lives of anyone they want, and they dispose of them as if they were garbage. That's what they did to Timothy McVeigh. The Batman murders are a continuation of the takeover and control, and you need to see it as such. These Nazis took the lives of other young people in that movie theater, and I'm on to them. How about you? They forgot to tell you that the crisis was created by them. Now it's a national emergency and we have to ban guns and disarm America so that they're defenseless against the Nazis who have guns. What we really need is to disarm government by spreading the truth, because government is the real threat to Americans today. Not Iraqis, not Afghanis. Our own government is our biggest enemy. All government is about force, and that's all. What is the third discrete step in this process of taking your mind? Crises. And it takes as little as 6 weeks to bring a country to the brink of a crisis. They have tried all kinds of crises, and most of them failed because of outside intervention. I have read about it. They tried blowing up nuclear bombs in cities. At one time they had nuclear bombs in 22 American cities, and they were stopped. That was during the Bush administration. So the Batman movie theater murders are pretty easy to see through. They're after that Second Amendment. This is an all-out effort to get the guns away from the people so they can't defend themselves against Nazis. Now, if I'm right, you're going to see legislation to ban all guns. And people have been buying guns in record numbers, 5 million guns a month. Has hunting become popular? Or do the American people realize that they're under siege by Nazis? How will Americans defend against tyranny and fascism if the Nazis take away all the guns? They're rendering us defenseless. Step 3 is crises. It is a discrete and necessary step in the process of mind control. And after they get the law passed, then it's time to normalize. That's step 4. This is another discrete step. Normalization is when you go to work and you forget about the 4 discrete steps which have rendered you defenseless against a senseless and controlling criminal government that found a way to set aside your Constitution and your rights. Discrete, remember that word. Discrete steps are what's happening to you right now in the USA. Tell others. Videos are a good way to send the message. And if you don't have your own video, link to those of others. Word number 22, dissemble. It's a verb. It means disguise the nature of, feign, or pretend. When you call a bill the Patriot Act, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with patriotism, but instead it defies the Constitution that the puppet president took an oath to uphold, that describes this word dissemble. George Bush pretended to be unaware of the 9/11 attack in advance, but later he admitted watching it on television. He said he saw the first plane fly into a building and he said, "What a terrible pilot." How could he have seen it on TV? The Naudin brothers video was released the next day. How could he have seen it on the first day? There's only one way: closed-circuit television. That's the only way that George Bush could have seen it on the first day. And the only way that he could have closed-circuit television to see this is because he was directly involved in the murder of innocent Americans in 2001. Now, why is George Bush walking around free? Why isn't he charged with murder? When the illegal alien became the puppet president, why didn't he keep his promise to do a real investigation of 9/11? Because he's part of the same party. 2 names, but just one party. The controlling party. And when the illegal alien who's presently living in the White House rammed through the health care bill, some of you thought it was actually about health care. Not control, not access to your veins so they could eliminate you, and the executive order that says now they can kill Americans who haven't even been charged with a crime. Now it's legal. So if you expect to collect 1 cent of your Social Security, forget it. There is no contract and you will never collect your Social Security because they now have access to your veins and they are going to eliminate you. Dissemble is when they draft a bill and name it the opposite of what it really is, like the Patriot Act. So watch the names of these bills that are tendered in Congress. Is the health care bill about health care? It's about control. It's about access to your veins. That's dissemble. They treat us like cattle. because the word dissemble is not familiar to you, and neither is the act of swindling you using words. And that's what dissemble means. You allowed the puppet president to dissemble his real reason why you were forced to accept the health care bill. And when they inject your parents with poisons to kill them off after they are no longer useful to the Nazis, then you will know the true meaning of this word dissemble. Dissemble is what they do to disguise their real intentions in putting this legislation through and making it law. And now they have the Supreme Court dissembling as well, calling it a tax, and therefore making it constitutional to force you to buy insurance that you may not want to buy, to give the government control that you may not want to give. And it's a loss of one more of your freedoms. One more control put in place to control you, enslave you, and take everything you've got. You can stand by and watch all of your freedoms vanish, or you can begin to protest and resist this invasion of your life and the apparent railroading of you to do what you may not want to do. Dissemble is what the Warren Commission did to pretend that Lee Harvey Oswald drank Coke while in the cafeteria and still was able to fire shots from a junk rifle 5 floors above where he was at the moment the shots rang out. The Supreme Court dissembled and fooled the American public into thinking that it was only one gunman who killed JFK, when actually it was a huge conspiracy that included everything in government: FBI, CIA, Supreme Court, and most of Congress, the Dallas Police Department, prosecutors, the Federal Reserve, and even the Queen of England was involved in this conspiracy because she owns America, unbeknownst to most Americans who think that we are the land of the free, we are the land of the slave. Ever since the USA was incorporated, when government puts on a false appearance, that's dissemble. When government conceals facts, intentions, or feelings under some pretense such as healthcare, the Patriot Act, or killings to pass new legislation to take away your guns, that's the true meaning of this word dissemble. When they give a false or misleading appearance to a bill, that's dissemble. When they intentionally conceal the truth or the real nature of their actions, that's dissemble. If you don't know this word, how can you recognize the tactic? They can play you like a piano. Dissemble, remember that word. Recognize it when it's being used on you. And the next word is duplicity. It's a noun. It means double dealing, deliberate deception. Duplicity is deceitfulness in speech or conduct. Does that sound familiar? It's what the puppet president does every day. And he's not real good at concealing it. Many see through this clown in the White House. Imagine a day when everyone can see right through duplicity. He tells you that the Iraq War is over, yet he leaves 17,000 troops there. Duplicity. It's speaking or acting in two different ways to different people concerning the same matter. The puppet president wants to be reelected, and so he uses duplicity to fool you. He's double dealing. Duplicity is deceit, deception, dissimulation, fraud, guile, hypocrisy, and trickery. Duplicity is politics. Business as usual, and we have to do something about it. Duplicity is giving you the opposite of what was promised. This puppet promised us candidness, directness, honesty, straightforwardness, and transparency. And what we've gotten is the opposite. We've gotten duplicity. Do you remember what he told you when he conned you into voting him into the White House? No wonder Native Americans say white man speaks with forked tongue. Are you Indians talking about duplicity? Yep. Duplicity, remember that word, and call it out when the puppet or anyone else uses it on you, because it's what all politicians use routinely to manipulate you and the rest of the constituents. Next word, egregious. This is an adjective. It means outstandingly bad, outrageous, and everyone likes to use Adolf Hitler as an example of egregious? What about Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, and George Bush? What about Obama and the wars he vowed to end just as soon as he got into the White House? He told us, you can take that to the bank. Well, the bank called and your check bounced, Mr. Puppet. He went golfing instead of ending the wars. The murder of innocent people is an egregious act, and Hitler wasn't the only one who did it. All of the above are guilty of it. So why don't we arrest them and give them a fair trial? Aren't these deeds egregious? Or do you think it's okay for Obama to kill Americans who have not even been charged with a crime? They aren't even suspects. Is this egregious? What gives this illegal alien the right to kill Americans who have not had their day in court? We have a guarantee in the Constitution that we're supposed to get due process of law. And this puppet president, this illegal alien, took an oath to uphold that Constitution. Why isn't he arrested? Is the Constitution just a piece of paper like George Bush said? The egregious acts of these puppet presidents takes us back 500 years in our development of a more perfect union. What can Americans do to reverse the effects of egregious acts committed by these puppets who live in the White House and golf at our expense and travel the world talking about freedom and the rights of individuals like a bunch of hypocrites? One thing we can do is protest. Find the truth and spread it. It's poison to the dictators. Don't wait for Planet X to send them to hell down there in the underground cities where they'll be drinking each other's recycled piss. Do something now, just in case Planet X isn't actually there. Spread the truth any way you can. This will undo the effects of their egregious acts. The destruction of the World Trade Center buildings with hundreds of thousands of people in the vicinity is an egregious act, and it was committed by our government. And this act killed tens of thousands of people. They lied about the actual number killed, and then they made up stories and spread them. And since they had total control of the media, it wasn't too hard to brainwash all the people. But some of us are intelligent, and some of us know how to do research, and some of us are on to them, and some of us are, I'm proud to be one, conspiracy theorists. There must be some response on the part of the people, or they will get away with these egregious acts of criminal cowardice. Egregious, remember that word. If you're going to talk about the crimes committed by government, egregious is a word that you will need in order to express yourself. The next word is illicit. It's a verb and it means to bring out or draw forth. When you begin to look into any historical event in hopes of eliciting the truth, you start by collecting the facts. Others have collected the facts and then they interpreted those facts and then they wrote history books to tell you what they perceived. This is not the truth. This is their perception based on the facts they found. Later, other historians dig deeper and they find other truths, other facts, and they rewrite history. History is really the inferences of the historians. And if you find additional facts, then you may have a different inference from the set of facts you find, and this is how we elicit the truth. We bring forward the facts and elicit the truth in this manner. We have to dig to draw out that which is often latent, disguised, or misleading. And sometimes it is misleading intentionally. For example, the Titanic didn't sink. What? The Titanic did not sink. It was an insurance fraud. What? The ocean liner that sank was not the Titanic. What are you saying? It was the Olympic which actually sank. What? By digging deeper than those who wrote the love story script for the movie about the sinking of the Titanic, you elicit the truth. You draw it out. The Olympic was wrecked and repaired, and the criminals decided that the Olympic had to be sunk, and so they switched the nameplates. The ships were identical. They switched the nameplates and they put the bad ship out there with the good ship's reputation, and they put the name Titanic on it and sunk it and collected insurance from Lloyd's of London. That's the truth. The truth was elicited by investigating the facts in the case. Lloyd's of London paid off without investigating, but historians elicited the truth by digging into this insurance fraud, and guess who they found at the center of it all? Politicians and businessmen, like J.P. Morgan. Imagine that. The facts brought out the truth, and the truth was elicited from the facts. Once again, powerful people were at the center of another conspiracy, another fraud. And they, of course, didn't want the truth disclosed. And they would not appreciate you eliciting facts which would embarrass them and bring out the truth. The more facts you have, the easier it is to make a logical deduction and arrive at the truth. Ask questions, get answers, and then ask more questions. This is how we elicit the truth from the facts. Changing this event in the minds of the people so that they wake up to the truth is not so easy. 1,000 years from now, people will still say that it was the Titanic which sunk in 1912. And there will be no mention of the Olympic, which is the ship that actually sunk. The damaged and uninsurable Olympic is what sunk. And it sunk because it was not insurable. And so they switched the nameplates and they cheated the insurance company. 1,000 years from now, those people who are telling others that the Titanic sunk might also say that 19 Arabs did 9/11, because that's the official lie. And once the lie is in the heads of the people, you will find it extremely difficult to get them to turn around and face the elicited truth. Elicit, remember that word. It means digging out the facts to reveal the truth, finally. Next word is enclave. It's a noun. And it means a territory enclosed within another territory, like the District of Columbia, which is an enclave, because the territory around it is the United States corporation. Yes, we are a corporation, and you are chattel. Look it up. It's not on today's list. The greedy and the selfish commit merciless acts against the common people, and so they have to live behind gates. Look at the White House. There was a time when you could have a picnic on the lawn of the White House. The White House did not have a fence because the president and the government was fair and nobody had any reason to assassinate the puppet. Now they've got a guard against the people getting access to him because people would like to kill him. I'm not one of them. I want to see him go to hell. Go to that underground city and drink Hillary's piss. That would give me much more satisfaction. And if you kill him, you'll probably kill a clone. We'll talk about that later. When you had a picnic on the lawn of the White House, you felt that the White House belonged to the people. And the government was the people. Not anymore. Today, the word government does not mean you. Unless the government has to pay something, then it means you. Where do those in government live? Not at your house. They live behind the gates, in an enclave, apart from where the people live. There are two classes of people, the common people and the elite. And there's a bunker for the elite, and the common people are dirt bags. They will have to live on the surface as the 70-pound iron rocks rain down upon them when the tail of Planet X wafts past. The elite are in government and business, and they work together to screw you at every junction. And that's why I call them fascists. Some people say, how can they be Nazis and fascists? Because Nazism has nothing to do with fascism. Fascism is when government and business team up to screw you. The common people pay the costs of everything, and their wages are confiscated from them. And the elite spend your money. So we have a slave class and a privileged class. And if you don't see it and you're not complaining about it, then you're part of the flock. And some will call you sheep. The common people have bars on their windows because other common people are so desperate to survive that they would break into your house and steal from you. You have to lock your car and you have to lock your door. There was a time when you didn't have to lock your car or your door. And if the elite would stop stealing from you, we would all be affluent. Instead, the elite live in big houses behind tall fences. And this enclave that they live in is a sign that things are not right in America. We have a territory which is completely surrounded by another territory. That's what an enclave is. And armed guards prevent common people from entering the enclave of the elite. Because the elite fear that the poor will extract a revenge for the wrongs committed against them. And those who live in the enclave have good reason to fear the slaves of our society. They're not buying guns to go hunting. The elite would be murdered if there wasn't offense. And if justice prevails, I fear for the elite. Enclave. Remember that word. It's a modern-day segregation and apartheid to those who open their eyes and make the right inference from what they see. We have 3 words left. The next word is enervate. It's a verb, and it means the opposite of energize. Enervate means weakened or deprived of strength. War enervates a country. And we have been at war every year since World War II. Every year! And we are enervated by war. We're broke. We're maxed out on the credit cards. We're borrowing money. We are so enervated. Who's behind these wars? Whoever they are energized by them, because every cent we spend on war materials, they receive, because they are in the war supply business. Some people call them the industrial military complex. And it sounds like a conspiracy. You know why? Because it's a conspiracy. These people who are in the war business and make a killing from the bloodshed, they are also in the prison supply business. And that explains why America has more people in prison per population, per 100,000 population, than any other country in the world. The land of the free incarcerates more people per 100,000 than any country in the world? Correct. We are enervated by the incarceration rate. We are drained. We are impoverished by the incarceration rate. It costs something like $84,000 per year per inmate. And I think we have something like 2 million people in prison, many of them on drug-related charges. And who sells the drugs? The government. The CIA controls the drugs all over the world. And Big Pharma controls the legal drugs all over the world. It's a conspiracy. Yes, real conspiracy. And they have a conspiracy to promote international conflicts, so you spend your money on their war materials. They drag us into every conflict they can. And that's why we've been at war every year since World War II. Every year. And this is in defiance of the Constitution. That means every single president since World War II has broken his oath and should have been arrested. We're not supposed to get involved in every conflict. We're only supposed to defend. Is Iraq a threat to us? Of course not. It's the oil. Is Afghanistan a threat to us? No. It's the heroin, the poppy fields that must be controlled by the CIA. And so they use our military. We are enervated by wars that cost $2 trillion apiece. We're broke, enervated. These so-called leaders dismantle the Constitution so they can make more wars. Something has to be done. But all of you are looking for someone else to do it. And this is wrong. Nobody can do this for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to take responsibility. You are only 1 in 314 million, and so we're not asking you to do much. Just spread the truth every day. That's all you have to do. If 314 million of us did that, we would be a tidal wave of change. We would be a tsunami 3 miles high coming into New York City to change things radically. You have to spread the word. Change depends on you, not your congressman. You write that son of a bitch a letter, and he won't even read the goddamn thing. It's a joke to write your congressman. You have to take this into your own hands. One of the things you could do is just copy what I'm doing. Make your own vocabulary list. Apply it to the politics of the world, as I am doing. What if all of us did that? We'd all have a superb vocabulary, and we would be kicking ass. Read the dictionary definitions and then come up with your own script to apply it in your own way to the real world. It's great. It's interesting. It's fun. You have a microphone? What are you waiting for? Congress to approve it? You wait for Congress to do something and you'll wait forever. Congress is obsolete. Congress is too busy enervating our country with wars and imprisonment of the population. They're too busy buying into the companies that are going to become profitable because they supply prison supplies and war materials and oil and drugs. Look at this guy running for president, Romney. What is Bain Capital? It's a money laundering CIA operation. That's why the investors made 173% annually. And Bernie Madoff couldn't even make 8% and avoid prison. He's in prison now. So how did Romney make 173% annually for his investors? Drugs, money laundering, that's how. That's the truth of who he is. He's a mafia capo. And if you think that electing him to the presidency is going to change everything, you don't know who he is. You don't know his background, and you don't know who he works for. He will never work for you. And Congress also does not work for you. If you wait for Congress to solve this problem, you'll lose all of your freedoms and all of your money first. If you know this word enervate, it's easier to understand what they are doing to your country. Enervate, remember that word. They are draining us with wars and incarceration, with taxes and regulations. And the regulations and the laws are more often about them getting rich than about you being protected against anything that is a real threat. Let's move on. Eschew. It's a verb. It means to avoid, or shun, or evade, or dodge, or forbear, or elude, or shirk. We have good reason to eschew the debris in the tail of Planet X. Some of those rocks are 500 miles across. If you eschew the violent protest groups, you might be less likely to be killed by the police, but you could die in a FEMA concentration camp also. You can't eschew death by being a coward. Death is being dealt by government every day for someone. As soon as you have government, you have death of innocent people, because government is force. If you think that a magazine committed a fraud by debunking 9/11, you can eschew Popular Mechanics to send a message to James Miggs that we're not buying your debunking of 9/11, and we think you're a fraudster. We think you're on the wrong side. You're opposing the people. You should be opposing the dictators, the murderers. You made the wrong decision, James Miggs, and Popular Mechanics is a rag magazine as a result. It's time for you, James Miggs, to make a public statement about your alleged debunking and come clean about it. If you were paid off, tell us. If you were hypnotized, we want to discover that. Undergo hypnosis. Let's see if there's a government cap on your mind, like there was Andy Perro. If you read the Andy Perro story, you know what they do. They cap the mind. You really need to understand that. I think James Miggs was hypnotized. I think they took control of him and they used him to debunk 9/11 because I saw him in an interview and he really believes this. I still think that people should eschew his magazine. Don't buy it, don't read it, just eschew it. Eschew, remember that word. It's hard to say for me, but any movement will involve the avoidance of some people or some magazines or some businesses. And when the masses eschew those magazines, businesses, and individuals, the message is sent and it's clear that their behavior is unacceptable. Eschew. Next word, euphonious. It's an adjective. It means pleasing in sound. The crow of a rooster is not euphonious. It's cacophonious. The arias in the Marriage of Figaro are euphonious, on the other hand. What is the sound that a politician makes? Cacophony. And that of peaceful protest? Articulation of the crimes committed by a lousy leader? Grievances against a government that routinely robs the people? To me, that's euphonious. I encourage everyone to spread the euphonious protest concepts via video. Euphonious, remember that word. It's the sound of freedom. Last word, flout. It's a verb. It means to scoff at, show contempt for, affront, be contemptuous of, be disrespectful to, be scornful. Flout means to care nothing for, to defy, deride, despise, disdain. Flout means to disregard, to feel contempt for, insult, jeer, laugh at, mock. You can flout the gun control law by wearing a gun on your person without a government permit, and they'll blow your ass away. The law changed a few months before the most famous of all gun battles in America. It became illegal to carry guns in a holster in the Arizona Territory, about 100 miles from where I live, and I did a video on this story, which I will link to at the end of this vocabulary lesson. But let me tell you this tale because it's quite interesting. In 1881, outlaw cowboys, Billy Clanton, Tom McLaury, and his brother Frank McLaury, thought they'd flout the new law and wear their guns where real men wear them. This was a fatal mistake because they got their flouting asses shot up and they all died that day at about 3 in the afternoon. They had been talking all over town that they were going to do harm to the Earp brothers. And Ike Clanton, who was not killed in the shootout, had stayed up all night playing cards with Virgil Earp. Ike Clanton forgot his gun that day and managed to avoid getting his ass shot up. He ran like a frightened rabbit and narrowly escaped the lead that his younger brother ate that fateful day. Just before Frank McLaury died, he told Earp, "I got you now." I guess he thought he was going to kill Wyatt Earp, and Wyatt said, "You're a daisy if you do." At the time, it meant, like hell you do. They didn't want to say bad words in those days, so they said, "You're a daisy if you do." And then they killed the guy. Virgil Earp and his brothers Morgan and Wyatt Earp were backed up by one badass known as Doc Holliday, who was acting as a temporary deputy of Virgil Earp. And these men decided that they were going to bring these threats of this hoodlum cowboy gang to a head. These guys were cattle rustlers, the outlaw cowboys. And so the Earps walked over to disarm them, and trigger-happy Doc Holliday just started firing. And he blew away the guy on the horse. I forgot which one it was. I read the story months ago, and I can't remember. I think it was Frank McLaury, but it could have been Billy Clanton. I just can't remember. Here's the link to that shootout of October 26, 1881, and there's a nice photo of the dead boys in their caskets. Tombstone was a silver mining town, and these boys had plenty of the shining metal on their coffins. They looked so nice there, deader than the Constitution in this once great land of ours. Ha! You thought I wouldn't end by taking one last shot at the Nazi government, didn't you? Flout. Remember that word. You don't flout the law by wearing your guns outside your pants for all the honest world to feel, because you could wind up like the McLaurys and Billy Clanton, deader than the Constitution. That's all for now, folks. Thanks for watching. Nation, because it takes one generation of students of the target enemy country to be exposed to the ideology that's being imposed upon them. When the TSA touches your genitalia, they have been instructed to do so. This is part of demoralizing you. You saw it in the Iraq War when they had men on leashes like dogs. The U.S. military demoralized them in order to conquer them, to enslave them, and take their oil. And it was Donald Rumsfeld who gave the order to do this. They called it softening up the enemy, but it was actually demoralizing them, the first discrete step in the four-step process to control the minds of that society. Watch out for this step, and when you see it, call it out. Tell the Nazis that you're on to them, and that you know about this discrete... Yeah, it's a great idea for only the Nazis to have guns. I love that idea. How do the people then defend themselves against the Nazis? If anyone would carry this to the second layer and think about Nazis have guns and you don't, and therefore there is no balance of power, there is only totalitarian power by the Nazis. And the people are so simple-minded that they see guns as dangerous. Well, they are dangerous, and that's why the Second Amendment is there, because guns are dangerous to the Nazis. And we need a Second Amendment just in case the Nazis take over the country and enslave the people. just in case the Nazis start killing people in movie theaters, and as they did on 9/11 in order to pass the Patriot Act and take away your freedoms. Now they're killing Americans in movie theaters, and they have you believing it was some nut with a gun. He wasn't hip. The Truthful Dictionary Vocabulary Builder. You'll remember these words, words 21 through 30. In today's lesson, I'm going to take 10 vocabulary words and apply them to real life. A dramatic application which you will find difficult to forget. And that's how I'm going to enable you to recall these words and use them to slash and destroy those who oppose you, control you, take everything you have, and enslave you. Words are used by everybody, so learn to wield words as if they were a sword. First word, discrete. This is an adjective. Individually separate and distinct, detached, distinct and abstract. The mind control process has 4 discrete steps. Step 1 is demoralization. It takes 15 to 20 years to demoralize a demoralization step, because if you don't complain, do you know what you get? Step 2. Step 2 is destabilization. This is a discrete step in the 4-step process to gain control of your mind, and you must resist and protest. They will hypnotize a college student, tell him to take a gun into a movie theater and start killing people, just so they can repeal the Second Amendment right, constitutional right to bear arms. I make videos, and I'm dangerous to the Nazis because I bring you the truth. If you bring the truth to the people, you are also dangerous. What we need in this country is a group of well-informed and dangerous citizens. Nothing is more dangerous than the truth to a Nazi. So let's be as dangerous as we can and bring down the dictatorship in America. The truth will loosen that grip. The last thing the Nazis want is for you to become aware of the 4 discrete steps in their mind control process. So help me spread the truth about what's really going on with the Gestapo, the TSA, and the Department of Homeland Security. They hypnotize a college student against his will, and they send him into a crowded movie theater to fire a gun at innocent patrons who have come to watch a Batman movie. After the theater killings, the Nazis declare a crisis. Some nut used a gun to kill people. And the Nazis therefore want to take away your guns and remove the Second Amendment of the Constitution, your right to bear arms, because guns kill people, not Nazis. It's not the Nazis who kill people. The guns kill people. Then the people hear about this plan to ban guns and they think it's a good idea.